In the courtroom, he caught a stomach-turning detail that no one else seemed to notice. As the young girl tearfully described how she'd been molested, the defendant, her creep of a teacher, was actually hiding his hands under the table, reliving the whole thing. Years of legal experience told Kevin everything he needed to know. The girl wasn't lying. Every word was true. The innocent client he'd been defending was, in fact, a morally bankrupt scumbag. Kevin immediately requested a brief recess, then stormed off to the bathroom, seething with rage. Defending a piece of trash like that would mean betraying his own conscience, but walking away meant ending his 63-win streak and possibly his entire career. Kevin was caught between his ideals and his integrity. Just as he stood there torn, a reporter friend pushed through the door. The guy had watched the whole trial, and he came in throwing snide little jabs, saying Kevin was hiding in the bathroom like a coward because he knew he was about to lose. He predicted Kevin's winning streak would die with this case, that he'd become the laughingstock of the legal world.
Had to close out someday. Nobody wins them all.
A total has-been. Those biting words cut straight through Kevin's moral line. Vanity slowly devoured his reason, and a strange little smile crept across his lips. Back in the courtroom, Kevin laid out evidence against the girl. He painted her as a troublemaker, claimed she acted out in class, drew nasty cartoons mocking her teacher, called him a moron. That's why she'd been kept after school for discipline. Then he went full attack mode, accusing her of fabricating the molestation story out of revenge. His words were so sharp, his attitude so vicious, that the girl and her lawyer had no way to fight back. With nothing but a silver tongue and a willingness to twist the truth, Kevin transformed an innocent victim into a vindictive liar. The verdict was exactly what you'd expect. The jury ruled the girl had lied. The pervert teacher walked free. And just like that, Kevin's winning streak lived on, but he had no idea what he'd just unleashed on himself. At the celebration party his wife Mary had thrown for him, a stranger, a black man, suddenly called Kevin's name and handed him an elegant business card. Turns out a prestigious firm called Milton & Associates had taken notice of Kevin's exceptional courtroom skills. They wanted to bring him on board, offering him a much bigger stage. At first, Kevin thought it was a joke. Then the man pulled out a check with a number on it so big, Kevin had no reason left to say no. The very next morning, Kevin was escorted to the firm's headquarters in New York. Forget the lavish interior, just the size of their office space. Smack in the middle of Manhattan, said everything about Milton's clout. This place was the gold standard of the industry. While touring the office, Kevin crossed paths with a stunning woman in red. She was so striking, he couldn't look away until she coldly shut the blinds in his face. That snapped him back to reality. Then, in a spacious office, Kevin met the godfather of the firm himself, John Milton. This legendary figure had his own way of sizing people up. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Milton led Kevin straight up to the rooftop terrace. Up there sat a massive infinity pool, connected to the outer ledge by a single narrow walkway, no railings anywhere. Just looking at it made Kevin's stomach drop, but Milton stood right at the edge without a hint of fear. He called it a stress test. To him, pressure sharpens focus, and focus is the key to success. But Kevin, a small-town guy at heart, was clearly more motivated by money.
When do we talk about money?
Money! That's the easy part.
The first thing Milton handed him was a place to live, a luxury apartment right across from Central Park. The firm gave it to top performers for free. The higher your rank, the higher your floor. Milton himself lived on the top. Kevin and Mary thought they were prepared, but the moment they walked in, they were stunned silent. Bright, open spaces, gleaming hardwood floors, an open layout that was honestly flawless. Even their black neighbors mentioned, with a touch of envy, that this kind of suite was usually reserved for partners. The fact that Kevin got one right out of the gate said a lot about how much the boss valued him. Mary couldn't believe how successful her husband had become. They were both walking on air, like they'd stepped into a dream they'd never dared to have. Completely unaware that every gift in life comes with a price tag, you just don't always see it. To welcome Kevin, Milton called a meeting of the senior partners and gave him a top-floor office. Soon after, Kevin got his first case. His client had slaughtered a goat in his basement, and his neighbors had reported him. The district attorney's office had charged him with violating public health codes. It was an open and shut case. The evidence was overwhelming, and there was almost no way to win. But Kevin knew exactly what this was. A test from Milton. Winning this case would make or break his future at the firm. So for the next few weeks, Kevin threw himself into the case, working around the clock, day and night. Meanwhile, Mary threw herself into decorating their new apartment, full of excitement. At first, everything went smoothly, but as the days went on, Mary started to grow more and more restless and irritable. She felt like she had nothing to do all day, no purpose, just drifting through life. And with Kevin always gone, buried in work, her life felt empty and meaningless. Luckily, before long, Kevin's sharp mind found a crack in the prosecution's case, a breakthrough. In court, he argued passionately that his client's goat slaughter wasn't a crime, it was a religious ritual. And just like that, he won the public health case, hands down. Milton was thrilled with his performance, and threw a lavish, black tie gala to celebrate. It was Mary's first time at an event this fancy, and she was riddled with nerves. She made Kevin promise, again and again, that he wouldn't leave her alone all night. But barely minutes after they walked in, Kevin forgot all about his promise, because out on the balcony, he ran into Christabella, the stunning woman in red he'd seen before. Christabella wasn't just breathtakingly beautiful and seductive, every word that came out of her mouth was provocative, laced with innuendo. She had a way of making people lose themselves, of drawing them in without even trying. Just as the two of them were deep in conversation, Milton suddenly appeared. But he wasn't there to ruin Kevin's fun. There was a crisis at the firm, and the emergency. The firm's biggest client, Alexander Cullen, had just been indicted by the prosecution. He was charged with the murder of his wife, his stepson, and the family housekeeper. The case had already caused a media firestorm. Milton wanted to hand the case to Kevin, but the firm's managing director, Bob Brooks, was firmly against it. He was worried Kevin was rising too fast, that he'd threaten his own position down the line. So he pushed Milton hard to give the case to a seasoned, veteran lawyer instead. But Milton's mind was made up. He had complete faith in Kevin's abilities, and in the end, he insisted that Kevin take the lead on this explosive, high-stakes case. When they got home that night, Mary was heartbroken and furious, hurt that Kevin had left her alone all night. Kevin tried desperately to explain himself, but Mary wouldn't hear a word of it. She stared daggers at Kevin, screaming in rage, and even banned him from their bedroom. The cracks in their marriage were already starting to show, but Kevin didn't have time to focus on it. He had to win the Cullen case. If he did, he'd take New York by storm, become the most sought-after lawyer in the city. But while he was buried headfirst in his work, something absolutely terrifying and unexplainable happened to Mary. She was out shopping with the female neighbor, just a normal day, when out of nowhere, she saw the woman's face morph into a demon's, right in front of her eyes. The horrifying sight made her heart stop. She ran for her life, fleeing the scene as fast as she could. Even when she got back home, she was still shaking like a leaf, traumatized, pale as a ghost. She told Kevin all about the horrifying thing she'd just seen. She was absolutely convinced there was something deeply wrong with this place, with the city, but Kevin just brushed it off, scoffing at her story. He thought Mary was just new to the city, struggling to adjust to her new life, that she was just stressed, and seeing things that weren't there. Not long before, the couple had moved to New York City for Kevin's promotion, into the luxury apartment the firm had given them. But ever since they'd moved in, it was like a dark, unseen force had wrapped itself around Mary. Her mental state was getting worse and worse by the day.
You know, you buy a couple of new suits and you're fine.
It's a little more than that, Mayor.
I have this whole fucking place to fill! And I know we've got all this money and it's supposed to be fun, but it's not! It's like a test. The whole thing is like one big test. And God...
Desperate to help the distraught Mary, Kevin had his mother come up from their small hometown to stay with them. Just as they arrived at the apartment building, they ran into Kevin's boss, John Milton. He greeted them warmly, but Kevin's mother reacted in a strange, off way. She was clearly unsettled. She mumbled a few awkward, half-hearted words, then hurried inside, her steps unsteady, and the very next morning, she was already packing her bags in a rush. She said she couldn't stand living in the city, that she wanted to go back home, and she begged to take Mary with her. Kevin had no idea why she was acting this way.
This is home. Understand? This is where we live. I'm not going back to Gainesville. Unbelievable!
But after his mother left, he was even more determined to climb to the top of his career. He threw himself completely into investigating the Cullen murder case, working non-stop, with no time for anything or anyone else, and with no support or affection from her husband for weeks on end. Mary's mental world crumbled. She spiraled into an even darker, more terrifying place. She started having constant, terrifying nightmares. She kept hearing strange, unidentifiable sounds that no one else could hear. You could see it in her face, in her hollow, lifeless eyes. She was hanging on by a thread, on the brink of a total breakdown. When Milton found out what was happening with Mary, he actually told Kevin to walk away from the case, to put his sick wife first, because that's what truly mattered. But Kevin didn't even hesitate. He turned the suggestion down flat, without a second thought.
You know what scares me? I quit the case, she gets better. And I hate her for it. I don't want to resent her, John. I've got to win her here. I've got to nail this fucker down, do it fast and put it behind me, just get it done. Then, put all my energy into her.
The reason Kevin was so dead set on staying on the case was simple. He was convinced he had a guaranteed win, because the day before, Cullen had confessed a secret to him, one no one else knew. He'd been having an affair with his female assistant for years, and the night of the murders, the two of them had been together the entire time. Kevin knew instantly this was the perfect alibi. If the assistant testified in court, Cullen's name would be cleared, no questions asked. And to make sure nothing went wrong, Kevin grilled the assistant before the trial, role-playing as the prosecutor to test her story. But in the middle of it, he accidentally uncovered a devastating secret. For a woman who'd been Cullen's lover for years, she couldn't describe a single intimate detail about his body. Kevin realized immediately something was very wrong. This was clearly a setup, a lie orchestrated by Cullen. He definitely paid the assistant to lie on the stand, to give fake testimony. Just like with the molestation case before, Kevin was trapped between his conscience and his ambition all over again. But when he stormed into Milton's office, furious, and told him everything, Milton's reaction was anything but what he expected.
Gotta go with your gut.
That's your advice?
I'll back you either way. Maybe it's your time to lose. Think I haven't lost before?
Like he'd known all along, Milton acted like it was no big deal, but he had Kevin wrapped around his finger. Kevin was already in too deep in this game of greed and ambition. There was no way out for him now, no turning back. He couldn't overcome his own need to win, and he couldn't walk away from the fame and fortune that were right within his grasp. The second Kevin agreed to call the assistant to the stand, to let her lie under oath, the outcome was sealed. Cullen was acquitted, a free man, in open court. But Kevin had no idea that the consequences of his choice would come crashing down on him so fast. The second the trial ended, Kevin got a call that something had happened to Mary. When he rushed to the church where she was, he found her sitting there, naked, wrapped only in a bedsheet, her eyes blank and vacant. She curled up into a ball, sobbing as she told Kevin that Milton had broken into their apartment that afternoon, and raped her. Kevin shook his head as she spoke. He knew it was impossible, because Milton had been with him in the courtroom, the entire afternoon, without leaving once. Kevin was convinced Mary had completely lost her mind. With no other choice, he had her committed to a psychiatric hospital.
It's money. Blood money, Kevin. We just drank it down, both of us. We knew it. Winning those cases, taking the money. We knew they were guilty. But you just kept on winning. And every time.
Before Kevin could even process what Mary had told him, more strange, horrifying things started happening, one after another. After he won the Cullen case, Kevin was made a partner of the firm. Bob, the managing director, pulled him aside privately. He told Kevin that if Milton tried to replace him with Kevin, he'd expose all the firm's dirty secrets. But the very next day, Bob was brutally murdered by a group of homeless men, supposedly over a stolen wallet. And as they killed him, the men's faces morphed into demons, right there in the street. At the same time, on his way to visit Mary in the hospital, Kevin was stopped by an investigator from the Department of Justice. The man told Kevin that Milton was a devil, a monster who existed solely to serve evil, because every single one of the firm's clients was involved in horrific, illegal crimes behind closed doors, arms trafficking, drug dealing, money laundering, you name it. Kevin wanted nothing to do with it, at first, but then the man mentioned the teacher.
They found him yesterday. He had the body of a 10-year-old girl in the trunk of his car.
The molestation case from back home, and in that moment, Kevin realized he'd committed an unforgivable sin, one he could never take back. But before he could say another word, a car came speeding out of nowhere, and killed the investigator instantly, right in front of Kevin's eyes. When Kevin got back to the hospital, he found his mother had come back from home. She was racked with guilt, saying that if she'd insisted on taking Mary with her when she left, none of this would have ever happened. But before they could even talk for a few minutes, something went terribly wrong with Mary in her hospital room. She'd seen Kevin's colleague's face morph into a demon's in the mirror, and it had terrified her to her core. She'd screamed and thrown the woman out of the room. Then, hysterical with terror, she dragged a chair in front of the door. She stared at Kevin through the door, frantic on the other side, and her eyes went hollow and empty. She could hear voices, whispers from demons, in her ears, and she couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't bear it. Then, as if drawn by some unseen force, she picked up a piece of broken glass from the floor. Kevin screamed and threw himself at the door, desperate to stop her, but it was too late.
I love you.
Watching his wife die right in front of his eyes broke Kevin completely. He was consumed with grief, and he couldn't understand why any of this was happening. That's when his mother told him the truth, the secret about who he really was, the one that had haunted him his whole life. More than 30 years before, in a restaurant in New York City, his mother had met a waiter who knew the Bible cover to cover. They'd spent only a short time together, but she'd gotten pregnant with Kevin, and the man had vanished without a trace, never to be seen again. Until that day, outside Kevin's apartment building, she'd seen him, and recognized him instantly.
Milton! He's your father. He's your father.
He's always been there. I know that now. watching, waiting, playing us like a game.
It was him. The second Kevin learned the truth, he went straight to Milton to confront him, and to his shock, Milton didn't deny a thing. He admitted to everything he'd done to Mary, to all of it. Kevin flew into a blind rage the second he heard it. He pulled out his gun and fired every single bullet, emptying the clip, but Milton didn't even flinch. He was unkillable, immortal. Kevin finally understood. Milton was the one behind everything, the puppet master of all this chaos. He screamed that Milton had tricked him, trapped him, lured him into this endless hell, but Milton just smiled. He told Kevin that even if he was Satan, the all-powerful ruler of hell, he could never control a human being's free will. Every choice Kevin had ever made, every single one, choosing his career over his wife, choosing to defend guilty men, choosing to win over what was right, he'd made all of them, of his own free will, driven by nothing but his own vanity and ambition. Hell, he'd even warned Kevin, over and over again.
That day on the subway, what did I say to you? What were my words to you? Maybe it was your time to lose. You didn't think so.
Lose? I don't lose! I win! I win! I'm a lawyer! That's my job! That's what I do!
I rest my case. Vanity is definitely my favorite sin.
To walk away. Then Milton laid out his true plan. No holds barred. He'd fathered countless children here on Earth, but most of them were weak, mediocre. Only two had ever shown true power, true promise, Kevin and Christabella. He wanted Kevin and Christabella to have a child together, a son, to create the Antichrist, to build a bloodline that would overthrow heaven and rule the world. Kevin walked toward Christabella, his eyes glazed over, like he was under Milton's spell, but deep down, he was still in control. He knew exactly what he was doing, but at the very last second, just before it was too late, Kevin stopped. He'd had enough. It was time to end this, once and for all. Watching his plan collapse, Milton erupted. Flames burst around him. His body twisted and warped until he became Kevin himself. He let out a roar of pure rage, and suddenly, Kevin was back in that bathroom, still agonizing over whether to defend the pervert teacher, as if everything that had happened was just a bizarre, terrifying dream. Back in the courtroom, Kevin saw Mary, healthy, beautiful, just like before, his heart filled with gratitude. He kissed her tenderly, then walked up and announced to the judge he was withdrawing as the defendant's attorney. Whatever the consequences, he'd take them. The courtroom exploded. Stunned faces everywhere. Reporters swarmed him with cameras, demanding to know why. Even the reporter who'd mocked him earlier swooped in with an offer an exclusive interview. He could spin this beautifully. Young lawyer takes a stand, refuses to defend a predator. It'd be a huge story. Kevin wouldn't lose his license, he'd come out a hero, famous and rich. Kevin was tempted. They agreed to meet the next day to talk it through. But the moment Kevin walked away, the reporter dropped his disguise and transformed into Milton. Clearly, the next round of temptation had already begun.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
I'm Jack, thanks for watching. See you next time.